Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran, welcoming you on behalf of the virtual academic board chaired by Comfort. This is your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. If you are here, it's because your mind is one of the greatest on the continent. So Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Ratio Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group UMB Bank, with support from the Graphic Communications Group. We've had a great time so far on my Top 10 series, featuring so far Moses K. BaIden, CEO of the Margins Group, Professor Audrey Gadzekpo, Reverend Daniel Ogbarmey Tetteh, and then last week with Dr. Opoku Ware Ampomah. Today I bring on somebody that I've had the honor and privilege of looking up to for several years, almost 3 decades, and he's been a great mentor in the life of Comfort and I. The one and only Uncle Ebo Whyte. Uncle Ebo, good to see you.
Very good to see you, and thank you for having me.
It's a blessing, and I've said it, and I'll say it again, that in some of the most uncertain periods of our lives, you were there to provide the light of Christ and the light of friendship. And we are eternally grateful for who you are and what you represent.
And so were you also there for me at a time of need. So thank you and comfort. And I think I hold the distinction of being the only man married to the two of you.
That's a very beautiful story.
Yes.
It must have been at Croma Plaza. Eh?
Yes, at Croma Plaza.
For those who do not know, Uncle Ebo went to Takrady for a show, and he was in Accra Plaza having his quiet lunch when somebody walked up to him and said,
"Yes." And then, no, he was the supervisor of the restaurant,
right?
And he wanted to show people his those working under him that he knows me,
right?
So he invites all of them to come over to my table and said, "Wenyimna, do you know who this one is?" And they all shook their head. "This is Uncle Ebo Whyte." Albert na comfort.
It's interesting how people relate to you. Let me start off on that note. When I meet people that have had the privilege of being mentored, guided, or impacted by your life, each of them speaks with a sense of very personal relationship, as if they know you as somebody who's very, very special to them. How do you manage to, at the same time, mean so much to different people?
No, I don't think that you go out trying to make that impact. You live your life the best way you can, and then you trust God to use it as He sees fit. So that is what it is. There's no strategy behind it. It's just that you surrender yourself to honor Him. You surrender yourself to walk in the fear of the Lord, and then the rest is up to Him.
This particular series is designed as a straight-out mentoring platform.
Okay.
So we are saying that we are working with people that Comfort and I have known for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, in some cases even 50 years.
Okay.
So we know it, not that we read it somewhere, and we are asking them to share with us the top 10 principles, lessons, values emanating from their various dimensions of their journey in life.
Yeah.
And then we are at the same time asking young people to listen to the points they are making and ask which one resonates with you the most, and what are the questions that are arising as you listen to them.
Okay.
And one of the things that is emerging is people trying to understand in this whole maze of life meaning, relevance. And so I want to ask you, how do you combine what you love with what you do professionally? And is there a convergence point in any case?
Well, I began with kind of models I picked from my life at a very informative time in my life. So the models I picked were from scriptures, because I grew up as self-interest, so in a neighborhood where we glorified immorality.
Oh.
So when I became a Christian at 15, I realized that none of them was consistent with the new faith I had acquired. And so I was led to pick my models from the scriptures. And I picked 3 models. So I picked Joseph, I picked David, and then I picked Daniel.
Wow.
Now, there was something common in all of them, which was excellence in service, and faithfulness in service. So based on that, when I came into the job market, my commitment was to work as if I owned the company. And I developed this philosophy that work so hard that no matter how much the company pays you, there'll be a balance for God to make up. And that that was my focus right through.
Please say that again for the benefit of our viewers and listeners.
Work so hard. In other words, deliver such value to your employer that no matter how much the employer pays you, it will still not be up to the value you are delivering.
And that balance must be owed to you by God in essence.
Yes, because he is the ultimate employer.
Okay.
So he makes it up. It's one of the things Ghanaians haven't realized, that God is the ultimate employer. So people who say that, you see me, they are cheating me in my workplace. You don't know what you're talking about. The question is, are you delivering value? Continue delivering value. And the one who says that work at everything as unto the Lord himself would be able to reward you. And that has been my philosophy right through. So that is how I worked until the Lord himself said it's time. Because in 1976, thereabout, the Lord indicated that he had given me theater. He fulfilled that promise in 2008.
That is 24 plus 8, 32 years later.
I will leave you to work the mathematics.
You can see me struggling.
Yes.
My master teacher is not watching, so I'm a bit safe.
But within that time, I operated on another principle that whatever your hands find to do, do it well. And that is how I worked. And then when his time was due, and then he himself ushered me into this, and then I discovered something, that it has all been a training for this.
Interesting. So Daniel, Joseph, and David.
Yes.
And they provided 3 models that have guided your
Yes.
life. And I'm sure we'll reflect a bit more on these lessons as we go along. But today we are exploring the top 10 principles of your life. And if you've mentioned them already, it doesn't really matter. But I just would like to enumerate them because I like taking notes as a student.
You've not been too kind. 10 is a very restrictive number.
Yeah, sure, they probably could have gone to about 50.
Oh, boss. At 67, it isn't 10 things that have brought you here.
The word top doesn't do any justice.
No.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, so the first one is, you are not a failure until you blame someone else.
Wow.
That changed me from a whining, complaining person into someone to take responsibility for anything, any situation. Don't blame anything. Don't blame anyone. You are not a failure until you blame someone else.
Do you find that we do that often?
Come again?
Do you find that we do that often?
We do, oh yes, we do that.
Why do we do that? Does it give us an escape?
I think it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of some of the weaknesses in our socialization. We must have somebody to blame. So, and when we don't find any human being, then we invented the witches. And then Ezabeifor, and then demons, and things like that. But you are not a failure until you blame someone else. Things may not be working well for you, but you haven't failed. You fail when you relinquish the responsibility for your life and now give it to somebody, because whoever you blame, you are saying that thing and that person was the one in charge of your life. So then, at that point, you have failed.
So let me model a scenario. Somebody gives you bad advice, you take it and things don't work out.
I took the advice.
Okay.
I took the advice. I should have used my brains. I should have used my mind.
Somebody offers you a job opportunity and the company goes bankrupt, you lose your job?
I learned something during the period when I worked with the company. I thank God for the exposure. And then the next thing is now what next?
A football club lures you with big money, you go and play and they get relegated and you go to another division.
A football club lures you with money and you get injured in your first match. I'm sure many people don't know that you like Bob. And who do you blame? No, I took the chance.
Right.
It is my fault. It's nobody's fault.
It's
not
all
my
about
manager's fault.
responsibility.
It is my responsibility.
Wonderful.
It's my responsibility. And when you have that mindset, you do the diligence of thinking through issues before you act. So you don't do things because Reverend Albert said no. You know eventually I can't blame him for it, and therefore, let me think through this. Let me evaluate this. Let me even possibly bounce it off a few people, and then let that decision be my decision, not his decision.
Let's go to number 2. I like this one. You think carefully, you evaluate your decisions, and you make choices that you can own and take responsibility for.
And
Wonderful.
At that point, no matter what the outcome, you haven't failed. That is part of life, and that is exciting. The second one is a principle I picked from my mother. My mother gave me this one. My mother gave me 2 principles. One is what I'm going to share with you. And it says, it is the wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg. It is a wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg.
Break it down for our viewers and listeners. For myself first, and for our viewers and listeners.
Okay. Now, you know, an egg does not contain any bone. It doesn't have a bone. So if you find a bone in an egg, then do you understand me? But before I even go on, let me explain to those who may be watching this who are not Ghanaians. In Ghana, we don't leave the bones of chicken when we are eating. In fact, somebody can break up with you for not serving the bone with it. So boneless, no, that's not here. I mean, we don't do boneless. The bone is important. Albert, you remember when we were growing up? You could eat everything and reserve the bone
for the last.
I
can comfort an uncle who didn't even need any of the other parts of the chicken. Just the legs and the bones.
So the bone in a meat for us is a big deal. It's a big deal. And my mother said it is a wise son who finds a bone, a juicy bone in his egg. And she explained it with a story. She said that a man gives his children an egg. You know, they were keeping poultry. And gives the children eggs. And decide, you can either boil, you can either fry. And this one among them would always take the egg and take it back to the kitchen, the chicken coop, and add it to the eggs that have not been picked. And so with time, the hen hatched the eggs that he had. So he had not consumed the egg that was given to him. He had always taken it back there. And now he had chicks who grew to be hen, and now his egg now has bones in it. That it isn't everything that comes into your hands that you should consume. Not everything is meant for consumption. Learn to conserve, learn to save. Then you'll find bone in your egg.
This can be summed up as investment.
Yes.
Applicable to every area of your life?
Every area of your life. Don't just consume it. Don't just live for today.
So the first one is, you're not a failure till you blame someone.
Blame somebody else.
AKA responsibility.
Yes.
Second one, it's the wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg. And we could call that investment.
Yes.
Wonderful. What would number 3?
Number 3, resurrection still happens. In my life, I've had to start over from zero before, at the age of 43, from zero. And sometimes when when life throws you like that, it is very easy to roll over and die. But what had happened was that somebody had become a little bit uncomfortable and insecure about me in the corporate setting, and had used a few of his links within the board to frame me up and get rid of me. And so in their mind, they were done with me. They were finished and done with me. I stayed home for 1.5 years. But by the grace of God, I got up. But one of the things that helped me to get up was this: resurrection is possible.
Is that the Joseph in you?
Oh, that is the David, that is the Joseph, that is the Jesus, that is whoever.
The Daniel.
The Daniel.
Let me show you the Joseph in this, and let's see whether we can interrogate it a bit more. So several years ago, God points you to what you will become.
Yes.
And then instead of the thing happening, you go on a detour into a different land, a different place, a different industry. And then in that place, which I would choose to call Potiphar's house.
I'm sold by my brothers.
Yes. Into a different country.
Yes.
And then in that place too, you are serving diligently, having great results. And then somebody misrepresents you and you are thrown into jail.
Yeah.
Instead of going higher, you go further down.
Yeah.
And you start from ground zero.
Yes.
Wow.
Zero crowd, completely.
For the benefit of those who are watching, who are also at ground
Actually, you
zero.
start from minus, because you see,
It would seem like that.
if they had just let me go, it would have been, then you can go and say, oh, where's the last place you worked? Oh, I worked with Springboard. But they dismissed me with 8 charges and called me a criminal.
Wow.
Do you understand? And so at that level, where are you going? And I had resolved that I wasn't going to lie about my background. So I remember I lost a job where they had given me, they were so sure they were going to have me. The CEO of the establishment was so sure they were going to have me because I had helped him build a company from nothing. And now let's formalize this relationship. And then I told him, this is my background. So, no, my board is made up of very level-headed people. They will look at it the same. I think it's no problem. So I go through the interview to formalize the thing.
The relationship. Okay.
Before then, I already had an official car. They had already given me a brand new car. It's a car I drove from the showroom of Mitsubishi.
Wow.
And then so I go through this board, which was supposed to be a formality, because they all knew that this thing had come. Actually, when we were building the company or the establishment, there was no board. Do you understand?
You were there when they came.
And so they all knew that. And then we go through a fantastic interview. You know, when you're in the interview, you can see from the body language of the people, they are satisfied that they were not wrong and things like that. Then, at the end, they ask, is there anything you would like to say to us? You would like to say? Very last end. And I said, do I tell them or do I not tell them? Because it hadn't come up. Do I tell them or do I not tell them? And I say, well, I think in the interest of full disclosure, and because of the level at which you are employing me, because I was going to be second only to the guy, the founder, I think you need to know that I was dismissed from this place. But I am in court with a case to clear my name. And if the results come and I'm guilty, I promise you I would resign. I would tender in my resignation. But I can assure you that none of the charges were real, were correct. Now, this was an establishment these men respected. Do you understand me? And they decided, no, we can't have you.
I'm sure the question that our viewers will ask, so I'll ask you for them, did you have to say it?
I think so. At least at that time, I thought so. I don't want to live with ghosts in my cupboard, which somebody can spring at you this is Ghana. Because I was going to be a very high profile. It's a high profile position. Somebody is bound. This is Ghana. Somebody is bound to come and say, hey, you people, are you aware that guy you've employed, this is his story, that he was dismissed? Go and ask these people. Some criminal you've put there. Because in our community, in our society, when you are shining, people don't celebrate you. They immediately begin to look for reasons to diminish your performance and your achievement.
Why?
That is the way we are. Maybe it's our culture.
Why?
Bring me back and then we'll interrogate that particular thing. Why that is the case in our society. And because it's a long saying. In the end, the court ruled in my favor and said the dismissal was wrongful.
Would you see that setback as part of what has strengthened you as a person?
It was God directing me. When he shuts a door, he knows why he has shut the door. I'm not too sure that I would have come into my own if I had gone into that company, because it's something I was very passionate about. It was a wonderful thing. The man himself was an inspiration. He was such a stimulating person to be around. That I'm not too sure that I would have left him.
Forgive me for staying on this one point for so long, but really it's not even about the number of points we can canvas. But I'm just imagining that somebody is listening also at ground zero, either through a fault of theirs or no fault of theirs. I just can't let you go on without asking, now that with the benefit of hindsight, you've been able to, by God's grace, you came out of it and you've moved on and the results are there for everyone to see. You say with authority that this was God navigating you through. But I would want to ask about, at the time you were going through, were you sure it was God at the time, even in the midst of your pain?
In a very strange way, I wasn't disappointed because I had told the guy that I know Ghana. I don't think somebody with this kind of background, with something to his, would fly with these men. But he thought he knew them better than I did. But I knew them. I knew their mindset, the Ghanaian mindset. These were Christians. And I know that Christians are soldiers who destroy their injured. We don't support them. We don't protect them. We are the only soldiers. If you are a Christian and you are in trouble, that is when you will realize that you stand alone and would throw the book at you. So I knew that. So when I dropped that and they came back consistent with who I knew they would be, I just felt, well, Lord, I think I honored you in this matter. What next? And that was it.
Your biggest victory must have been the fact that you told them yourself.
Yes, I did.
Wow. I tell you what, this is the highest point for me in this conversation. And it's a great
You haven't seen the others. There are some.
So, let me say so far. If you just joined us, this is not food for thought. This is Springboard, a virtual university, and I've managed to hijack my big uncle, Uncle Ebo Whyte, to join us for this conversation about my top 10. And halfway through the conversation, I've literally spent my time around the word resurrection because it's too powerful to let go. So the first one was, you're not a failure, so you blame someone. Second one is a wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg. And the third one, deep resurrection still happens. Yeah. Uncle Ebo, number 4.
Number 4, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. Albert, in Ghana we waste thoughts. And we don't take responsibility for them. We think, oh, just thoughts, But thoughts are things. You are where you are today because of the thoughts you've had in the past. Your thoughts create your reality. It is not a demon. It is not anything. You brought yourself here. Whether good or bad, you brought yourself here with your thoughts. Thoughts materialize. They manifest. So if you think that you are wonderful and can make an impact, you will make an impact. If you think that you don't matter, you are insignificant, and it doesn't matter what you do, no matter what you do, nothing good will come out of you. Nothing good will come out of you as well. Thoughts are things.
And it doesn't matter what other people think, is that what you're saying?
Thoughts are things. Your thoughts would find a way. And there isn't anybody who has achieved anything that he didn't think it first and didn't think it actively. I'm sure that Springboard was on your thoughts years before it manifested.
Absolutely.
And it was on your thoughts at a time when you didn't have the means to fly, let it fly.
Correct.
But because they were in your thoughts, in the fullness of time, they manifested.
Correct.
Nothing is possible except you think it. Now, so if you're not thinking deliberately and intentionally on the things you want, on the reality you want, what you have done is that by default, you are thinking some negative thoughts that would make you only envy those living their dreams because you yourself cannot live your dream.
Each of
Thoughts
these points
are things.
Each of these points is something we could spend the whole hour talking about. And if,
so.
And if you say 10 is not enough, then I'm sure that we could spend a whole year doing Uncle Ebo's lessons on life. Let's go to number 5.
All right, so 5. Excellence is its own reward. Excellence is its own reward. In a lot of contexts, people can tell you, people said, oh, when I started working with this company, I really was killing myself. I was working very hard. But the pay, and they didn't even appreciate what I was doing. So I don't bother anymore. Hey, you just shot yourself in the foot. No, excellence is its own reward. Continue delivering excellence in the fullness of time.
You said a trap for me.
All right, okay.
You set a trap for me by laying the foundation with Daniel, Joseph, and David. So everything that you see, then I think, okay, so where is this one? And I find it in the
somewhere.
The 3 models you're giving me. And
yes.
It's such a beautiful point.
Yes. Excellence is its own reward. You take the case of Joseph, and that is one of the things, fantastic things for me with Joseph. Joseph is sold into slavery. And he does not mope around, he's not bitter and everything. He throws himself into serving Captain Potiphar. And the Bible says that Captain Potiphar did not have to concern himself with anything he put in the hands of Joseph, apart from the food he would put into his mouth. Because that one Joseph could not do for him. But apart from that, he did not have to concern himself with anything. And in God's own goodness, the reward came. David, as even a shepherd, and I tell this story that he was looking after his father's sheep. So, Albert, if at the time the lion came, the bear came, if he had taken cover and gone home to tell daddy, hey, daddy, what happened today? A lion came home.
You do a camera, you would have taken a selfie or a picture you shoot.
The father would have said, thank God you are safe, my son.
You made a sensible decision.
Yes. But he decided, no. This will not on my watch. The lion is, I'm not going to lose a sheep today. That's excellence.
This is Springboard at Virtual University, hanging out today, and I'm hanging out today with Uncle James Ebo Whyte, sharing with us his top 10 lessons. So far, my summary: number 1, you're not a failure till you blame someone. Number 2, is the wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg. That's a legacy from his mom. Number 3, resurrection still happens. Number 4, thoughts are things. And number 5, excellence is its own reward. Call a friend or loved one to tune in or join us as we look for the next 5 lessons. But before that, and let's find out, Nicole, what attribute is on your mind today in the segment?
Purpose. A Harvard Business Review article shows that although purpose is so critical for success, about only 20% of leaders have a strong sense of their own individual purpose. Leadership purpose makes you distinctive. It is how you do your job and why. It is what made Madiba say, "The struggle is my life. I will continue fighting for freedom until the end of my days." John C. Maxwell asked the following 3 questions to help you find your purpose in life. 1. What do you sing about? 2. What do you cry about? 3. What do you dream about? So our question for you today is, have you identified your purpose and are you putting it into action?
Don't be left out. Download the Pulse app from the App Store or Play Store to mash up all day, every day. You can also enjoy more mashup. Just buy the new Mega Bundle and get 3 gigabytes data, extra 400 megabytes for your social apps, and free MTN to MTN calls every Monday. So go ahead, feel the pulse on MTN Pulse. Just be. We're good together. Everywhere you go.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation. Over the past 45 years, we've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products, and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Welcome back to Springboard of Virtual University, and we continue our top 10 series today featuring Uncle James Ebo Whyte. I call him Brother White, and that's just our own way of calling each other. He calls him Pastor Albert off air. But it's just good to have him here sharing his top 10. And before the break, my colleague Nicole shared some thoughts in the Data is King segment about leadership purpose. Nicole, I've been trying to choose from Uncle Ebo's top 10, even before he finishes delivering them. And when he delivered the third one, I said that was my favorite so far. And he said, but I haven't heard the rest. But I said, okay, so far. So out of the first 5, which one hits you the most?
You're not a failure until you blame someone else.
Why?
Because sometimes when things happen, we want to look for someone to blame. Blaming others makes us feel better. Like, we don't want to take responsibility.
I hope you're not blaming me for...
No, I'm not blaming you for anything. So it just hit me that when you do something and then you don't succeed, you're trying to look for factors, reasons as to why it didn't work out, and then you tell yourself that, okay, because this and this happened, that's why I didn't do well. But that's not the case.
So that's your favorite?
Yes.
Okay, let's see whether when he finishes the 10, it will still be your favorite. Okay, Uncle Ebo. So Nicole highlighted purpose as the tip for the week. Is it a big one?
Is that not the what life is all about?
Yeah.
Because without purpose, everything is a waste, isn't it?
Wow.
So is the key, is what undergirds everything.
Everything that you do.
And if you don't have a purpose you've just picked a purpose to be useless.
Wow. So the person who doesn't discover their purpose, either intentionally or by default, has made a choice to live
You've
a
made a
useless life.
choice. You go wherever. You know, there's something that I learned some time ago, and because you asked for 10 things, 10 principles, it's not part of the top 10 that you wanted. And it says, you can either sail in life or drift. Now, if you drift, the good thing is that you never get lost. But you also never get there.
If you drift, you can never get lost because you're not going anywhere.
You can never get lost.
But you also never get there.
But you never get there.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
But it's not part of this. So it's not my number 6.
But it's in my back pocket.
Come again. Okay, you can keep it in your back pocket.
Let's come to number 6.
In life, you are either having dinner or you are dinner.
I love this.
You are either having dinner or you are the dinner. Albert, there's an aspect to life that many of us are not comfortable to face. And it is a dog-eat-dog kind of reality this life is. I picked this from watching National Geographic. And out of it, I coined this statement, which I use whenever I speak to young people. And I said that God created a lion and put the lion in the forest. And the same God created a deer and put this deer in the same forest. To the lion, he gave swiftness and a keen taste for meat. To the deer, he gave a very keen sense of smell and also swiftness. And put them in the same forest and said, have a good time. Is God fair? And the thing is this, if the lion does not use what God has given him, it will sleep hungry.
And possibly die.
If the deer also does not use what God has given it, it would also become dinner for someone. And so that is where I coined this, that in life, you are having dinner. In other words, you are running things, as it were. You are making things happen for you. Or you are furthering somebody's agenda, somebody's cause, quite often at your expense. And you've got to be aware of that.
I have about 10 questions about this one alone, but I love the part about have a good time.
Yeah, have a good time.
Because how good? I've been to South Africa and seen the safari before.
Yes.
How can you have a good time when you know the lion is lurking somewhere?
Well, how can the lion also have a good time when he knows that the deer can be very swift?
It's a dog-by-dog world.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. There's this saying, I think it's a South African saying, that it says that every dawn, the deer wakes up knowing that it must run faster than the fastest lion, or it will not see the end of the day.
Correct.
And the lion also wakes up knowing that it must run faster than the fastest deer, or it will starve. It happens every morning.
So whether you're a lion or a deer, when you wake up, you must be running. That's the end of the quotation. Very beautiful. Let's go to number 7.
Life is for the courageous. And it comes from Joshua chapter 1, verse 9 and co. Be strong and courageous. Joshua is being commissioned by God himself to take over formally from Moses at a very critical time. The whole nation have moved from Egypt. They were at the very edge of conquest. The phase of just movement was almost over. We're now going to get into occupation, taking territories. And that's the point where this young man is put in charge. Into the shoes, the mighty shoes of Moses. And of course, any one of us, including him, would have been totally overwhelmed by the sheer challenge of it. And God himself comes to him in his commissioning and says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Life is not for the timid. And again, that is why the Bible will tell you that God has not given us the spirit of timidity, but of power, love, and self-control. Life is not for the timid. Life is not for the timid. There's nothing godly about being timid. There's nothing Christian about being timid. About
got to be
being
courageous.
timid. You've got to be courageous.
Oh, number 8.
Life is not fair. Just get on with it.
Even the way you say it, almost dismissive, Charlie. Circle.
Yeah. Get on with it. Get on with it. Get up. Life is not fair. There are lots of people who are bitter. They think they have cause to be bitter, but Albert, they are only bitter with life, with what reality is, nothing else. And if you do not get that one straight, what will happen is that you will fill your mind with so much negativity and pain and misery that you'll be a total mess.
Just get on with it.
Just get on with it. Life is not fair. A lot of things you can't explain. Why did I get a puncture when I was on my way to a very important meeting? Hey, fix the puncture and move on. If you have to leave the car, take Okada and go. But don't stand there and say, my mother-in-law, that woman, she won't come into my house again. No, life just happened to you. Get on with it. The ladies know this. At a very critical time, you get a wardrobe malfunction. The zip you've always used, one day just decided, who are you? I won't mind you. And then suddenly, all your plans shattered. That's life happening. Don't sit back and wonder, so what happened? Why is this thing happening? Why is this thing happening? Life is happening. Somebody you are close to, somebody can go and whisper something to that person, and that person, without coming back to you to verify, could make up his mind about you and about your relationship. And because you don't even know what is going on, you don't know how to tackle it. And you wonder, so what's going on? Hey, life is happening. Life is not fair. Move on.
Humbling, isn't it? It's humbling for me because many people are unable to cross that point when they get there because the feeling, the sense of betrayal, the feeling of being unfairly treated can be so strong. And you are saying, just move on.
Oh, this life doesn't care. There's a certain impersonal aspect to life.
Especially when probably the person who hurt you the most is having a party.
Yes. Just move on.
Wow.
Just move on. Pick yourself up. Cry if you must.
But move on.
But move on. Cry if you must. If you're not a Christian and you want to go and cut some, go and cut some if you have to. But after it, remember you've got to pick yourself up because you can't be cutting every day. You can't be cutting some every day. You've got to live. Don't run away. Don't hide. Don't go into hiding.
My mind is just going to football. I mean, before the match, he told you that he will tackle you hard. And he tackled you hard and then broke your leg.
No, those in soccer, nobody tells you I'll tackle you hard. They just look at your face and you know the guy has meant you.
You get the message.
No, yeah, he has meant you. He has meant you.
And then he tackles you and your leg gets broken for 6 months.
And look at life. Look at soccer. I mean, clear chance it hits the bar.
But Liverpool made so much noise about
Somebody hits the ball and he takes a deflection and it's in the pool.
Yes.
That's life. Your clear chance hit the bar. His no chance took a deflection and came into the post. And then you go and...
But it's difficult to just get on with it because I see Liverpool season almost down to one moment when Van Dijk was brought down by of all the people who could have done it to the Everton goalkeeper. You know, Liverpool and Everton, they are tough rivals.
That's right.
And they think that was when the season crumbled. And
that's right.
It goes from bad to worse.
Yes.
How did they just get on with it?
It's never been the same. I saw my heart still breaks for Klopp.
Yeah. How do you get on with this?
Get up. Look at which central defender can we get?
And move on.
Yes, and move on.
Let's go to number 9.
Never give up. Winston Churchill. Never give up. It's a luxury none of us can afford. No matter what life throws at you, never give up. Because life being what it is, the point at which you give up may be the turning point, except that you are not aware of it.
Number 10.
A lot can happen in a very short time. A lot can happen in a very short time. You know, sometimes when you have to start over, or things go on, you are in a relationship, it's not working, and you have to, you know this thing is not going anywhere. And then instead of walking away, you are calculating how long you've been in this relationship. And you're asking yourself, so am I not going to start over again? Yes, you have to. But don't worry, a lot can happen in a short time. This may have taken 5 years to go nowhere. The right thing may take just a few months to get to where it needs to go. So remember this. There's nothing like, okay, it took me 5 years to come this far, so this one would also take me 5 years to get there. No. A lot can happen in a short time. You can be struggling with a certain dream. You can be struggling with even your passion. You are plodding along, but you are keeping faithful. And then out of a sudden, something that you didn't plan, nobody could have foreseen comes, and new doors begin to open. Suddenly, you are busier than you thought you would ever be.
Yeah.
And you become even more relevant than you could ever have been. You didn't plan it. Within that short time space of a few weeks and months, you've done much more and accomplished much more, achieved more than you did in all the years when you were plodding.
Before we wrap up, let me give Nicole a chance to ask her big question to Uncle James Ebo Whyte. So, Nicole, what's the question today?
So, with the reference to his third principle, resurrection still happens, how does one imbibe this mindset in the midst of life's hurdles?
Just realize that it is not over until it is over. Many of us allow ourselves to be buried when we are still alive. You must understand that as long as you are kicking, as long as you have hope, as long as you can wake up, as long as you can think and dream, it's not over. And it doesn't matter whether you can see a way forward. It doesn't matter. This is where the resurrection comes in. In the most useless and hopeless of conditions, just remember there is a hand, and that gives resurrection. And so just keep hoping. Never give up.
Uncle Ebo Whyte, I'll tell you why that still stands out for me, because you told a painful story of your life. You wove it around it, and I want to believe that our listeners and viewers will find themselves somewhere along that story and will be stronger for that. Before you sign out for us, for the benefit of all of you joining us on various platforms, on Joy FM as well as Joy Prime and all the various platforms, let's know which one is your favorite of Uncle Ebo Whyte's top 10. And he tells us that this is a selection made for us because 10 can never capture all the lessons of his life, and we understand that caveat. But the number one, you're not a failure till you blame someone. Number two is a wise son who finds a juicy bone in an egg. Number three, resurrection still happens. Number four, thoughts are things. Number five, excellence is its own reward. Number six, in life you are either having dinner or you are dinner. Number seven, life is for the courageous. Number eight, life is not fair, just get on with it. Number nine, never give up. And then number 10, a lot can happen in a very short time. Share with us on social media which of these 10 is your favorite and why. And it will be just wonderful to hashtag it my top 10 and let us know which one is your favorite. Uncle Ebo Whyte, before you tell us you give us your closing comments, something about point number 10 just struck me from Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point, that water boiling or water heating in a kettle can heat from 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees till 99 degrees and will still look the same, apart from simmering underneath. And just 1 degree is added and that same water suddenly begins to boil, and you may think that so much has happened, but really, it is just that one additional, marginal contribution adding on to everything that has happened that brings a breakthrough. And so a lot can happen in a short time. What will be your sign-out thoughts on this show?
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to reconnect with you. and with comfort. I promised Comfort that I would do something on this episode, and I know that since she can influence editing, I know she may get it edited. But I was going to talk about her hair.
I knew you would forget.
I like the color, I like the styling, and things like that. And
the model at 55 is really greater than the model I met. So for the benefit of those of you viewing, I'll put Comfort's hairstyle on the screen just so you can see. What can I say? Thank you, Uncle James, for making time.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a joy. It's always a pleasure.
There's only one James Ebo Whyte, and it's been a pleasure having him on the virtual university, sharing his top 10 lessons. Let's do it again next week. On behalf of MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, Graphic Business, and the Multimedia Group, my name is Albert Ocran, saying God bless you, and God bless you.